Uh, Teaming is really difficult, especially when it comes to being able to control for or implement with all parts of the triangle. And we all want to have the universal school-wide PBS team. We all understand that PBS team. A lot of folks want to have a school-wide literacy team. Also, folks want to have their PLC team. Also, folks want to have their student assistance team or behavior assistance team, where they deal with kids that come up. And then we also have our tertiary level teams with your IEP meetings and so forth. The real key, or the way we need to begin to think about this, is through the function of those teams. What are the jobs that we really need to accomplish, and how do we focus those teams in order to accomplish them the best way? For example, with the school-wide PBS team, is it feasible to talk about literacy components in that team? Perhaps not on the monthly basis like the PBS team is, but it's very likely that you could do your DIBELS benchmarking, for example, in that team, or talking about school-wide things in one team. Now, everybody argues for doing the same sort of stuff where we integrate the teams at the secondary level. Not quite as easy as some people think it is. PLCs are really valuable, but oftentimes can't discuss behavior in those times, because you have 45 minutes to meet or even less, and discussing those things just isn't feasible. So what we're finding to be the most valuable is, if you're using the PLC, to continue to use that and to focus that on your educational or literacy time. We have to come up with another team on the behavior side that can consider standard protocol for moving from primary level intervention to secondary level intervention. Now, that's going to be a trick, because we don't have a PLC type meeting where teachers can move kids into a secondary level intervention and back out quite so easily. So what we would encourage, or what I would encourage, is a small team that can simply focus on progress monitoring of secondary level behavior interventions. And then we all have the tertiary level team that's individualized around the student. And models like that simplify and make the parsimonious teaming doable. Great question. So if you have one universal team at the top, or that considers school-wide green zone intervention, the other teams report to that team. So let's talk behavior first. A student gets 3 or 4 office discipline referrals. They move into this secondary level behavior team that's just made up of the principal, the check and check out coach, and the school psychologist, or the special education teacher, or something to that effect. A very small team. They then put the kid on that simple generalized or generic intervention and then track the behavior. If the student needs some minor modifications to the intervention, then they can make those modifications. If he needs significant changes, it goes into the tertiary level support. That team would report to the school-wide team and say, we've got this many kids who are progress monitoring well, or we need to consider reteaching these expectations because we have a lot of kids at the secondary level who are missing this one component, something to that effect. Now let's talk about on the literacy side. You have your PLCs who consider the tier of instruction that the student is in. So if the tier 1 kids, what intervention are they getting? Tier 2 kids, what intervention are they getting? Tier 3 kids will move up and down, and that's great for PLCs if we're talking PLCs. That team would also report to the school-wide team saying, we have most of our kids on progress monitoring, a certain number are on progress monitoring that aren't doing so well, this many are doing great. We could use, the data is showing that we could do some modification at this grade level in general, change the core, get more support in curriculum mapping, that sort of thing. If you're not using PLCs, you could also theoretically do some sort of a secondary level intervention similar to that of the behavior. Now, it's not as easy, but it's feasible as well. So here's the thing with bullying. What we're finding is that bullying behavior, or physical aggression outside the classroom, especially as kids get older, 3rd, 4th grade is when we see the transition. Kids are doing it for peer attention almost completely, almost all the time, 80, 90% of the time. That's what the research is telling us. The kids are doing it for peer attention. So the most reasonable or most parsimonious approach to reducing that problem behavior and replacing it with a more appropriate behavior is to put the problem behavior on extinction, or to get rid of the reinforcement that is maintaining that problem behavior. So we have to think of ideas or ways to remove peer attention for kids who are exhibiting problem behavior, as well as the kids who are egging it on, those victims that encourage other kids to pick on them. So schools can do this in lots of ways. One approach is to teach all the kids in the school a response or way to deal when somebody else is not being respectful. And you can do a stop, walk away, tell an adult sort of response. The point of really intervening effectively is we've got to get bystanders, not the bully, not the victim. We've got to get bystanders to actually intervene with each other. That is truly the key. It doesn't matter how many social skills groups we put the bullies in. If we do not deal with the bystander, the problem behavior is going to continue to increase, and it's going to escalate, because the reinforcement they are getting from their peers is more valuable than the punishment we are giving them, or has a stronger effect than the punishment that we're giving them, or the attention we're giving the victims, right, when we talk to them about it. The peer attention they're getting is more valuable, and so they'll continue to do it unless we can figure out how to remove that peer attention. Well, most people now are familiar with the impact of just teaching somebody in a conference sort of setting how to do something. The likelihood they'll implement is pretty low. Maybe 5% of what you hear in a conference will teachers actually implement. But if we really want people to implement what we train them on, we need to be reinforcing their behavior. The same thing with kids works with adults. The two components of generalization. If we want to teach somebody in one setting and have them actually use it in another environment, i.e. their classroom, two things are really required. One, we've got to teach them in that environment. Two, we have to reinforce that behavior as soon as we can, because people do not want to try a new behavior. And if they are going to try a new behavior, we need to reinforce it immediately. That's what the research tells us are the two real components to getting generalization effectively. Coaching matches that perfectly. Coaching gives us the opportunity to, one, teach them how to teach better in their environment, actually in their classroom, meeting with them and saying, let's try it, let's practice how to give more opportunities to respond, how to increase your praise ratio, how to get your error correction more effective, that sort of thing, in their classroom environment. Incredibly effective. Two, after you watch somebody teach and you can tell them, I loved how you did this, I loved how you did that, here's what your numbers were, that is how we reinforce teachers to actually make lasting change in the classroom. Narrowing the gap academically is a huge challenge. It's a big deal. It's the thing we're all focused on. In order to reduce the gap, we need more effective instruction, but we need more time in order to deliver that effective instruction. So if we have lots of time and we aren't delivering anything good, it's not going to matter. But assuming we have good instruction, we need the time in order to be able to deliver it. PBIS has shown over and over and over again that by reducing office discipline referrals or problem behavior, all those times when the student has to go to the office and wait outside the principal's office, or sit outside the classroom, or go to the whatever room, whatever you want to call the room, the more kids have to do that, the less the teacher is able to teach. Now that's just specific students. On top of that, general classroom management the less time you're in your classroom dealing with kids talking out, dealing with kids getting up out of their seat, dealing with kids deciding to sharpen their pencil in the middle of your class, kids exhibiting those minor problem behaviors, that those are slowing the instruction down or making it not happen. And PBIS has shown over and over again that by reducing problem behavior or by teaching those expectations and reinforcing those expectations, we can increase what's called academic learning time, which is the time that we can deliver effective instruction.